Hi there, it's Kathy Haig here at A Diva's Guide to a Magical Urban Vegetable Garden, where I share tips with you that easily get your garden going and keep it going in the most natural ways possible, and just gives you a healthier lifestyle and a garden that doesn't take up all your time. Today's topic is compost tea and other natural fertilizers that you can use. Okay, so compost tea, if you haven't heard of it, is basically like making sun tea, where you would take, some tea bags and, put them in a jar and set them in the sun for a few hours to get nice and warm and let all those good things absorb with the heat into the water, and you make tea out of it. Essentially, you're doing the same thing for your plants. Okay, and it makes a nice, mild, but super nutritious drink that you can basically feed to all your plants, seedlings and up, regularly. There's no limit on it, although I'll add a couple things in a minute here. But regular compost tea, you're basically looking at good broken down compost that you've taken out of your compost pile, and you're ready to put it as a mulch in your garden or whatever else. It has a lot of good nutrients in it, and when you add it to, like, use a 5-gallon bucket, or I'll show you here. I have a big garbage pail that I use. I fill up with water and the sun warms it, and I fill it up every 2 or 3 days, especially in the summer, when you're obviously using more water. But I have here a couple of half bags. Now, I'm obviously not going to use all these, but I just happen to have cow manure, a half bag of cow manure, and some worm castings. But pretty much any kind of good broken down manure is good when it's well composted, or if you prefer not to use animal products but you're okay with worm castings. Worm castings are one of the most nutritious things you can put on your garden, period. It's why you want to encourage earthworms to live in your soil for so many other reasons as well. And I'll do some a thing on earthworms here one of these days. But earthworm castings are actually in garden circles, it's called black gold, because it's just that good for your plants in your garden. So if you take and just dump it in, now for something this size, I'm going to be using about this probably about a quarter in each bag, and I'm going to be using about a half of that out of each, so about an eighth, because I want something that I can use for watering all my stuff coming up here in the greenhouse when it needs watering again, and also my seedlings that I have going in the house. Now, there's some other things that you can do as well, that over the season. I don't suggest using it on your seedlings, or if you do, very sparingly. But some other really good natural fertilizers is Alaskan fish fertilizer, a liquid. You can get the unscented stuff. The scented stuff can be a little bit potent if you have neighbors and you're worried about that. But follow the directions. If you're using it as a foliar spray, if you're worried because you've been giving your, I tend to be really careful with tomatoes, for example, because they need very specific amounts of the proper fertilizers. So get a tomato fertilizer. But if you use a mild solution in a spray bottle, you can also dissolve, if you have like a 1 liter spray bottle, for example, an eighth of a teaspoon of fish fertilizer and Epsom salts. Shake it up and mix it up really well, and it can be used as a foliar spray, and your plants will absolutely thrive. Sorry, my door is blowing open here on my greenhouse. It will absolutely thrive. They won't over absorb, but they will take what they need and put it in. And as far as just basic fertilizers go, this is what I use. The nice thing with a nice basic compost tea, especially if you don't have too much animal compost in it, more just organic stuff, like from the broken down vegetables and fruits in your compost pile, you can use it for watering every time you water, and your plants are not going to regret it. Be careful if you're adding even really well broken down chicken manure, because it tends to have much higher nitrogen rates, which is great, for digging in the spring and improving your soil. But you want to be careful about adding it to your flowering and producing plants over the season, just because with those extra nitrogen rates, like I say, when it comes to tomatoes and even things like peppers, too much nitrogen will kill your flowering and your production, right? So you want to make sure and get that right. But for the rest of the stuff in your garden, all your greens and beans and all that, peas, all those sorts of things, water them all the time with whatever you happen to stick in your compost tea, and they will love you. So will your earthworms. Hope that helps, and I will talk to you soon.